Good afternoon to all the viewers on IndianTelevision.com. Sorry, there was a break over there. Moved on to working with ABP, with Star News at that stage. Now it's called ABP News. Moved on to Tata Sky, then finally as a consultant, and finally became set up his own company, consulting different ventures in the industry. And finally, he got an offer from the Hinduja Group to come and look after a cable network, which was at that stage looking a little bit like it needed a good guiding hand. Took up the venture, took up the challenge, and I'm talking about Winsley, dear friend of mine for many, many years, the CEO of INCL and of the HITS venture that the Hinduja Group has been running successfully. Welcome, Winsley.
Thank you so much, Anil, for having me on the show.
The pleasure is entirely mine. And tell me, how has today been for you?
If you're talking about today, as in the last few hours,
just today. I mean, it's been a challenging day for the industry. The last 3 days, we've had Rishi Kapoor, we've had Irfan Khan, and this morning we had the CEO of the Film and Producers Guild passing away at 8 o'clock, Kulmeet, which was...
It's been quite a shocking time, and we've had an equal level of concern in our own organization. Nothing linked directly to COVID, but it's been a sad period also because yesterday we lost one of our colleagues, a cable operator in Mumbai, in Dongri. We lost a colleague of ours, lost his father, and a couple of days ago, a colleague of ours lost his son. So it's a bad time, right? You just feel this. You feel so helpless because you can help only up to a certain extent and not beyond that. So. Yeah, it's been difficult times, but hopefully, as they say, this is the storm before the calm. So that's all what we're hoping for.
Yeah, so while it's been bad on many fronts where people have been losing their lives, I believe that as a company, your company has been very prepared, was very much prepared even before the pandemic measures were declared by the government. So could you share a little more about that with the audience?
Sure. So, we've always, one thing that we've always believed in right from the time we've set up our HITS platform is that the future of this business will be driven by technology, and technology can only be as successful as its reliability. So considering the fact that we had a very strong HITS platform and a cable platform, it was very important for us to put in place a business continuity plan, or BCP. And Anil, this got exacerbated in December 2019 when the satellite that we were on began to face some problems, and we had to migrate our entire services to another satellite, right? And migrate millions of customers, thousands of cable operators, and all of it in the wonderful time frame of less than 30 days. And we pulled it off, right? We pulled it off brilliantly thanks to the technology team and the operations team. But I think the learning from that and the trigger point was therefore we needed to put in a business continuity process where the business could stay continuous and contiguous, and we could ensure revenue assurance, etc., as a result of putting in procedures and practices. So that's when we devised the BCP for our business across 3 levels. So there's L1, L2, and L3. So just to give you a quick sense of it, so L1 is like, for example, let's say we had a problem in Ahmedabad, for instance. So let's say we had a problem in Nagpur, and Nagpur has a head end, Nagpur has 20,000 customers, and Nagpur for some reason is shut down. We worked out a plan where signals from another head end, say in Nasik or in let's say somewhere around Chiplun, could be redirected to Nagpur. And that became our L1 plan. It also meant that technical teams that were on standby could provide the services. So L1 was a plan where a location was affected in totality, but where the rest of the business was continuous, was running. Then we had an L2 plan, and this is across all functions, okay? Technology, operations, legal, finance, HR, administration, everything. Then we had L2. L2 is where we were forced by some force majeure condition, like say floods in Mumbai, right? That would be an L2 situation for us, where it's a force majeure condition and people all can't come to work. How would we work with a minimal number of staff, but not a wafer-thin team, a significant team? So we worked out a checkerboarding system where one team would work on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The other team would work on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So that was our L2 measure. And this was again put all across the country, including at our broadcast center. And the third important thing was the L3, which is our level 3 alert. Level 3 alert is exactly what this pandemic is, where no one can reach the broadcast center, no one can reach the head ends. We can't have staff go to our warehouses for release of set-top boxes. We can't service customers. And we put in place a very tight procedure. So we actually have people living in the broadcast center. We have people living in our head ends who live there for maybe 3 days or 5 days, and then they rotate with other staff. We had curfew passes arranged in the shortest possible time so that teams could be, could be available on the field. We had emergency vehicles prepared. We had a CAT. We created a CAT called a Central Action Team, which coordinates with each and every region to see if there's any crisis. For example, when we had a problem in a particular city, we were able to deploy staff there very, very quickly. So L3 has been put into play ever since the lockdown happened. And you know what? It's worked. I don't want to use the term beautiful because it signifies, under such difficult conditions, we've still been able to keep our business ticking over. But Anil, if I may mention, the most critical part of this L3 was working with our business partners, our franchisees, our affiliates, our cable operators. And with them, the amount of initiatives that we have taken and that they have taken has really proved its mettle today in this space. So if you'd like me to elaborate, Anil, just let me know if you think I'm kind of rambling on. But so I'll tell you how we address this pandemic in particular, because I think that's a very important learning lesson. And even before the lockdown was announced in the country, as an organization, we worked very closely with all our operators. And as you know, we have a pan-India presence of actual feet on the street. So what we did was we developed posters, we developed pamphlets, right? We developed a health guide. We printed all of this in 11 languages, and we had this distributed across the length and breadth of the country. These posters were put up not just in our cable operator offices or in our own offices. They were put up in residential colonies. They were put up outside schools, outside hospitals, outside police stations. Pamphlets were distributed. So even before the lockdown started, we had a wide range of communication that went physically on the ground, in addition to having messages on our Barker channel, on our portals, which spoke about social distancing, spoke about hygiene conditions like washing your hands with soap for 20 seconds. I think there were a lot of initiatives that we took, and we took those initiatives, which one feels good now, were taken as something that we just had to do for the greater good of society. And every single person, whether it be a cable operator or whether it be our staff on the field, was able to have this deployed. So that is how we prepared well in advance for the lockdown, in terms of creating teams, creating the checkerboarding system. So today, while we're on this call, we have a central action team which connects in the morning on a call and connects again in the evening on a call. And they review the problems, we're not talking about business. This is to review the conditions across the country, right? So we review each and every office. Our regional managers have become our nodal officers. So any staff who have issues, etc., or any people who have issues, we created a help desk. I think there were a lot of initiatives that we took to not just stay ahead of the curve. When I'm referring to the curve, I'm referring to the crisis curve in terms of being able to be out there in the business. But I think far and wide to be able to ensure business continuity, Anil. So that was the way we went about it.
Fantastic to hear that you've been so advanced prepared for something which even the government wasn't. So it was coincidental that there was a crisis which made you head towards that. So when the crisis hit you all, what exactly was the crisis last year? You had to change your satellite, which was...
satellite. In December 2019, the satellite that we were on started having some issues with technical issues. And to ensure business continuity, we were advised to look for an alternate satellite. And looking for an alternate satellite is not as easy as shopping for vegetables. One has to see if it's the right satellite, the right transponders available. Is the capacity correct? Is the technical specifications correct? Can we get the government clearances? And I must tell you, we got everything done in no time. And I'm talking about government clearances across multiple functions like the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, the Telecom Regulatory Authority, the NOCC, the Telecom, DOT, Department of Space. They all stepped in and helped us. And I'll tell you, if it wasn't for them and our technical team, I'd be sitting here, probably wouldn't be even sitting on this call. But thanks to them, that crisis put in place a framework for us to be able to deal with any other crisis in future, and that got documented. And I think we use it now as a Bible, where we have standard operating procedures which each and every regional manager has on his mobile phone he's expected to carry. So if there's ever a crisis he comes across in his area, which is not just related to business, but related to, let's say, some staff of ours has been detected in his area, there is a case, what does he do, right? How does he take precautions? Like, for example, we sent a form to all our staff over the last couple of days, asking them to list out their locations, their safety levels, their blood groups, so that tomorrow, even if they have to be out on the field and if something untoward happens, we're able to expedite assistance for them at the earliest. Same thing with every single office of ours has a form that is filled in electronic form, which talks about whether it's in a red zone, a green zone, is it in a hotspot, is it in an orange zone, have there been recent cases in that area, and if there's any change in status, they need to inform the central action team. So there's a lot of processes and procedures that we put into place, on this one.
Are you all very much into the government app that the government is the...
Yes, absolutely. I think Arogya Setu is a wonderful app, and we've recommended for everyone to use it. I think in a time like this, there is no level of precaution that can be enough, and each and every one of us needs to be able to communicate that. And the Arogya Setu app, in fact, fit in very well with our philosophy, because, as I mentioned to you, we've done communications in 11 languages, Anil. Brochures, pamphlets, health guides, electronic and hard copy. So the Arogya Setu was an extension of that. And we had a lot of customers who wrote back with very positive feedback, saying that, we appreciate what you're doing and thank you for sharing that. So we even put ads, Next Digital and In Digital ads out, advising people to move to use the Arogya Setu app and all the benefits that it had.
But that's a self-declaration kind of an app where you have to be honest in your declaration.
It is, but what it also tells you, Anil, it also gives you details of the nearest cases, etc., and the precautions that you need to take. I think more than anything else, it's what a lot of people say, it's a comfort blanket, right? If people begin to panic, they will move to it. There is always, every time there is a talk of privacy issues and stuff like that. I understand that, and I'm sure that is. But having a comfort blanket, should you ever need to pull the trigger, is available to you. I think that was what the philosophy of rolling that out was, at that time. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were ready for the pandemic. You could roll out things fast. Has that worked well for every one of your people in the field? Have there been any cases of anyone getting infected when the teams? What kind of private the personal protection gear? Are they ready with it, with the hazmat suits, with your workers your feet on the field? I believe in the beginning there were problems that the cable sector faced where, of course, there would be that caution amongst your subscribers that is the guy coming to my home carrying the disease, carrying this dreaded thing which can kill you. So, you had a lot of things to deal with. First of all, the government had made lockdown, they didn't allow people to travel unless they got permissions. So there were a lot of issues which came around. So how did you deal with all this?
Right. So again, I go back to the business continuity plan. See, one of the key things in the business continuity plan, and you're right, okay, it wasn't easy at the start. From a perspective of looking at challenges, again, we, and again, I don't mean to sound quite, cocky about it, but even before the pandemic hit us, I'm talking about way back in January, early January, one of the things that we've been pushing in this year, and it's something that Indian television had covered also widely, is that we dedicated this last year, Anil, to being the year of digital transactions or going digital. So we launched our own app last year in June, and the app was for direct point customers as well as franchisee customers. In January, we started pushing the need for our cable operators to also embrace digital, right? And this is something that we took on as a project. In fact, in January, we actually tied up with a company called EaseBuzz to help operators to go digital. What it meant is a lot of LCOs had concerns for a whole bunch of reasons where they didn't want subscribers to make payments directly to us. And we completely understood that. But we didn't want the LCOs to be put at risk. We don't want our cable operators to be put at risk. And we wanted them to ensure that their collections, etc., they had revenue assurance. So we've been encouraging them to embrace technologies where they can send a simple SMS to their customers, and their customers can make a payment using net banking, debit cards, credit cards, UPI, Beam, Paytm, all of it. And we've launched that. And starting the moment the lockdown hit us, what we did was we took it to another level, and every single staff in the organization, we identified people from finance, legal, HR, started becoming sales executives and started becoming super trainers to train our LCOs on how to basically train their customers to make payments to them online, where they didn't need to go to a customer's home, right? And this is something that today, out of our 8,000 odd LCOs, close to about 6,000, which is a significant number, have embraced digital technologies. The remaining, I see a challenge, is mainly in markets, for example, rural markets, where connectivity sometimes becomes a challenge. There is no smartphone. So there also, I must share with you, Anil, there's a bit of an interesting anecdote. And we do a review every alternate day on adoption of digital, right? How much of your operators have gone digital? I'm talking about not digital to us, but customer to operator, right? And I got onto a call with operators from East India, basically. And they said, sir, we have a problem because connectivity or mobile phones, etc., is a problem there. And we're not able to collect digitally, but we've got a way to get around it. And I said, what is the way to get around it? And they said, listen, very simple. The government has opened public distribution shops, right? PDS, like your ration shops. We ask our consumers to keep their money with the PDS person. So all he does is a consumer, when he comes to pick up his essential commodities of rice, dal, etc., he leaves his money with the Kirana store of, merchant. He leaves the money for his cable connection as well, or for his broadband connection. And the cable guy goes once in a week and picks up the money. So there was a lot of innovation that came in where there were challenges. But by and large, we've seen a significant adoption of digital. If I give you an example of our own direct points that we have, we're collecting
How many of those?
Right? That's close to 100,000 customers, right?
That is all India, right?
No, that's only the cities of Mumbai and Delhi and Bangalore, and Goa to some extent. No, it's not the rest. If I look at those markets, already 97% of transactions is online. Payment collection is online, which is incredible. And who's the remaining 3%? That also is another interesting anecdote. The remaining 3% are senior citizens who are not necessarily tech savvy. And I must tell you how we got around it, right? So we called in the direct points on our video conference. We called up the direct point agents and we said, listen, there are these 3 senior citizens from your area who have not renewed. And the staff said, sir, I will become their foster parent. So you have suddenly direct point executives, direct sales executives, becoming a foster parent for 3 or 4 senior citizens from his or her area who can't make the payment. So we're making, the payment is being made, the services are being renewed on the word of the foster carer, right? So the foster executive says, sir, collecting money after lockdown is my problem. So we've been able to do that. So I think that was another interesting initiative we've done. And then also another thing that we put in play, Anil, and again, it was on Indian television, was the fact that we understood the lockdown. And even today, we launched 2 innovative packs. One is a thing called Vishesh Manoranjan Pack, where we said for just a fee of between 30 and 40 rupees, right, the operator is able to provide his customers with over 400 channels today, including pay channels, including value-added services, etc. And what we do is we give the operator credit that as soon as the lockdown is over, we will give you 24 or 48 hours or 72 hours to go and collect the money from the consumer. And should you not have that faith in the consumer, then you have another pack called the Info Pack, which is all the Doordarshan channels, etc. So the idea is to ensure that in keeping with the the request of the MIB and the government is that content availability and access to information should never stop. So irrespective of anything that anyone says and does, we have ensured that a consumer who's not even able to make a payment still has access to a basic package which allows them access to content which is, news, infotainment, entertainment. So I think we've, it's like sounding like a lot, and it didn't happen in a day, Anil. It's been it's been a long process. It's been many, many hours. The joke that a lot of us have today is that we're probably putting in more hours working from home than we would put in the office, right? Because our video conferences on Zoom and everything else start around 8 o'clock in the morning and, wrap up around 8:30, 9, 10. So the joke is that, someone made a comment the other day to me saying, "Sir, can I have 1 day leave?" I said, "Why?" He said, "I'd like to go to office. I'm tired of sitting at home and working. I'd like 1 day's leave to go to office." So I think, it's a new normal, and we've all got to be able to adapt to it, in different ways.
I'm going to ask you a very delicate question.
Please.
This morning, Sanjeev was telling me that he's facing problems as a specialized niche channel. The carriage fee phenomena has not stopped across the industry. While he needs a TV channel to because he wants to reach the widest consumer base that he can, digital is something which is not having that kind of phenomena. So when will that ever go away from the cable trade? That are you carrying his food channel, or is that off?
No, we have a great relationship. In fact, when I was in my previous avatar at Castle Media, I was part of the team that helped launch Food. So there's a relationship with Sanjeev Kapoor that goes back many, many years. So, but anyway, coming to carriage, I'll put it to you slightly differently. There is an infrastructure that is being put. That infrastructure needs to be compensated in some way, manner, shape, or form, right? There is an infrastructure. There is conditional access system. There is subscriber management system. So to give you a corollary, if I'm carrying a pay channel or if I'm carrying a free-to-air channel, the technology that goes into it and the infrastructure that goes into it is the same. Because even for a free-to-air channel, you're using the same pipe to deliver your consumer. Even for a free-to-air channel, you're using the same satellite to deliver to a consumer. You're using that bandwidth. And I think the carriage phenomenon is not so much as carriage. It's mainly the way I see it. It's always technical carrying fees, right? And if you see the NTO 2.0 that has been that there's been a discussion on NTO 2.0 where they've looked to bring about a cap on that, so there's what do you call it? There's no arbitrary carriage fees that are there in the industry. But I think in terms of carriage fee itself, it's now shifted more to a technical carrying fee because the infrastructure that an MSO has, the infrastructure that a DTH platform has, the infrastructure that a HITS platform has, right? If I use 2 Mbps of bandwidth on a satellite for a pay channel, I've got to use that same 2 Mbps for a free-to-air channel, right? Unless I'm picking it up directly at the COPE level, in which case I still have the back-end cost of CAS. So I think that will be there because that is the way the
But can it be minimized? Because the arbitrary nature of carriage fees is continuing.
It absolutely can be minimized, Anil. And I think if you even look at NTO 1, right, there was a very clear mandate that TRICE set out in terms of the calculation for carriage, if you recall, right? The illustration of 20 paise, right? That depending on your base and if you exceed a particular kind of penetration, you should pay. I think that has to come about as a normal, and that will happen, but over a period of time.
Yeah, but it's been about 2 years now. I think a year and a half since NTO 1 and NTO 2 is already there.
So NTO 1 launched last February, right? If you ask me, last Feb 14.
Yeah.
If you ask me, Anil, it's not really settled down or stabilized, right? There is still gray areas, and those areas have nothing to do with have nothing to do with the guidelines. It has mainly to do with the stakeholders in the chain arriving at a model that's a win-win for everyone. Whether it's a pay television channel working with the DPO to ensure that LCN incentives are paid fairly because there's placement and penetration, or whether it's a free-to-air channel working out a modality with a broadcaster, with a platform to be able to be carried and leveraged in a particular market rather than being carried all across India. So I think those fine-tuning or tweaking is bound to happen as we go along. I mean, has progress been made? Anil, there's been tremendous progress made. If you look at the amount, I'll give you an example of IMCL. The disputes that we would be filing, or the disputes that would be, the petitions that would be filed against us, or the petitions that we would be filed, has gone down into single digits. And I think that is a benchmark or a barometer of the maturity that the industry is trying to attain.
I understand. See, but MCOF has put out pleas that they've not been able to collect revenue. India TV has, not India TV, Indian News, I think, has put out a thing that the free-to-air part, as of yesterday. So there's that consternation, there's that frustration which is coming in amongst, you say have your collections been as good as you expected them to be?
So Mike, the collections are on course. Okay, have they been 100% as per target? No, I have no qualms in admitting that, right? But as I mentioned to you, that gap of about 6 to 8% has come mainly from the fact that we ourselves understand that there are certain operators who are not able to collect, and we've given them this pack like Vishesh Manoranjan pack, we've given them Info pack, or their senior citizens, right? So we understand that challenge. But I think by and large, the biggest challenge that is happening, Anil, is the fact that the operators, and you're absolutely right, a significant base of LCOs have not been able to make that migration to digital collections or digital payments, online payments. And I think that as it happens and as we see the transition, to give you a sense, where we were in March, first week of March or the last week of March, and where we are today in terms of digital collections is hugely different. Right? Like I mentioned to you, we have a company called EaseBuzz, right? And what we did was to help the LCOs. The LCOs required a whole bunch of KYC, documentation, etc. We stood guarantee. IMCL stood guarantee for the LCOs with EaseBuzz and said, listen, don't worry, they're good for their money. You give them you sign them on for EaseBuzz, and EaseBuzz, all it means is that they have a simple thing. They know exactly which customers owe them money, and they send an SMS to their customer, and the customer can make the payment. Has it been 100% adopted? No, it'll take a while to get there. And I think that is the key challenge that the industry will face. But then you talk about broadcasters, right? And you spoke about the FTA channels, etc. I think the challenge is not just the pandemic. I think if you really look back at numbers, I think a lot of broadcasters also mentioned about softening, of revenues in the last fiscal itself, right? Whether it's in the last quarter of the fiscal or prior to that. But I think softening has happened for a whole bunch of reasons. I think the pandemic, Anil, exacerbated that.
Sure.
Right? That definitely exacerbated it because everyone, including us, we were all caught, in some way, manner or form. None of us predicted that we would now, for example, I'll give you an example. I've got a customer that I was closing a deal with for 17,000 set-top boxes, right? I'm not able to get those 17,000 set-top boxes across to him. I wasn't able to, now I'm able to in the first 2 weeks, in the first week of April, right? Because interstate movement, paperwork, etc., etc. Now, of course, everything is organized because, as I mentioned to you, we have a team on the ground which is taking care of interstate movement, all of that. But we also as well, where I would have liked to see that curve grow, the revenue curve grow, I got constrained by the fact that I couldn't go and even service the deals that were on the table. So I think that, you're going to see that all around. It's not going to be a phenomenon that's kind of constricted only to a broadcaster or to a free-to-air channel, across.
So actually, what we skipped is about you providing personal protection equipment to your technical staff, the hazmat suits, and the all that. Could you manage to do that for?
So we have a very high level and SOP that's put in place. First of all, we don't enter any residential colonies, right? Any servicing is done. The beauty about servicing in the case of our business is unless it's a fiber cut, the servicing is done from the back end, right? If you have a problem with your set-top box, chances are it's a package problem, it's a software problem, and that's done remotely. Same thing in HITS. If the cable operator premise equipment has a problem, even prior to the pandemic, about 97% of issues, 95% of issues are resolved through remote logins, right? Where you dial into the system and you're able to fix it. For those that are on the field, they are taking all the necessary precautions that they can, namely wearing masks, gloves, there's complete social distancing, the vehicles that we use on the field, the fiber teams that go out. And again, going out, when I say they are not going out to residential areas, they're going out to places where a fiber cut occurs, which is a curbside, right?
You get the splicing equipment.
Yes. And those.
And are there many cuts happening? Has it stopped?
It's a very interesting thing, Anil. It's reduced radically, right? It's reduced radically. We're hoping that this continues long after the lockdown, long after some semblance of normalcy also comes back. We hope this will continue.
So as compared to pre-COVID, let's say you had, in a month, you had 100 times you had to go and splice your fiber. How many have you done in the last month?
We're probably talking about 30 to 35.
So you've dropped 65%. Right?
So about 60 to 65%. Because I'll tell you why. The critical thing is infrastructure that is ground to a halt, right? Whether it is road excavation or it's metro work or it is railway work, etc. A lot of those infrastructure projects, mainly excavation, right, which affects fiber cuts, a lot of that has been controlled. A lot of that has been reduced. So that is where mainly
But it's about to start again because the work started, the government has given the go-ahead. I've seen a lot of metro workers on the streets.
Correct. So we'll see. We hope that it won't increase as radically as before. But I think we, as a company, it's built into our plan that this is what's going to happen, and we obviously need to service it because
you have medical insurance. You've got cover for all of them.
Completely. That goes without saying. In fact, as a company, we're working also on extending the insurance for our local cable operators, all of them, because we believe that it's important that we build. We've been working this year also on 360-degree engagement with our operators at different levels. One of the things is also in their issue of under NTO, where a lot of operators said that their revenue or their earnings have reduced. We announced way back at Diwali that we're working on a plan, which by the way is in its final touches, of making our franchisee partners, of converting them into direct sales agents for a whole bunch of products, not just from the stable of the Hinduja Group, but from even outside. So I think I shared with you at VBS very briefly. We have, for example, we ran a pilot project in Northeast India, in Northeast India, where there was a product that a company was looking to launch, and they were only looking at doing it in Northeast India. And we converted our franchisee partners there into dealers for this, and they saw great increase in sales. So the pilot project has already been done. We're now hoping to roll that out shortly. Right?
So that includes oil, that includes possibly your trucks, and that includes, what else does it include?
Yeah, I mean, look at it. There's a banking institution, which is IndusInd Bank. There is obviously Gulf Oil. There is Ashok Leyland, no doubt. There's Hinduja Global Services, which does a lot of knowledge process work. I think there's a whole bunch of areas. OIL, of course, our broadband business. So the idea is to look at, and that, like I said, is not the be-all and end-all. Then there's Leyland Finance, right? Then there's Hinduja Housing Finance, right? That is something that we're looking at, which works on giving very small, like low value loans, which is ideal for phase 3 and 4 markets in India, right? You're talking about loans.
So you're talking about microfinancing.
Not just microfinancing, Anil. I'm also talking about housing loans, right? Mm-hmm. Housing loans up to 18 lakhs, 15 lakhs, 18 lakhs. So houses in small town India, which would cost in that region. So there is no one better that knows the customer than the cable operator in those markets, right? And the fact that that cable operator is part of our family makes it even stronger for us to have faith in being able to extend that loan. So I think that is one of the things that we've been working on. We've created a small task force which is working specifically on this end.
So, and when will this get activated?
We were looking, to be honest, to activate it in this month. And there's a reason, because we were looking to activate it post the exams, right? Post the examinations. But now with the current, because this requires some level of face-to-face connect, right? Now we would like to look at probably doing it in phases, anyways, on video conference. But the nuances of that and the modalities obviously have to go back to the drawing board. Because earlier we were looking at working on events, right? Having an event to announce it and engage. Now we'll have to look at an e-event, at least in certain markets.
Fantastic. So in terms of your subscriber base towards HITS and also in the area of your cable network, give us a lay of the land. I mean,
sure.
Where is HITS working? Where is your cable network? What are the numbers you have? What are the increase in numbers you've seen? And how do you foresee, being able to service if there's been an increase?
Right. So I think everyone in the industry was hit very badly during NTO1, right? When a lot of subscriber base dropped out of the back end of the truck, literally. I think we were again one of the ones least affected to an extent, for one simple reason that we had prior to that. One thing that we have started working at IMCL is we've started a horizon plan. When we knew NTO was going to be announced, we went ahead and had about 150 workshops across India for all our cable operators to educate them on NTO1. So we were slightly better prepared, I guess, than the rest of the mix. I'm sure there must have been others who may have been equally, if not better prepared. But we have that benefit. And we've spent the last 1 year on ensuring that base was built up again. So the good thing is that we've again closed the year with 5 million subscribers migrated back to IMCL, which in itself is a significant number. That also includes our joint venture partners, which is just under 1 million. So totally we're at 5 million today. We've just crossed the 5 million mark, in fact, in the month of March, end of March. So we've closed March with 5 million plus. And we're looking to, more than anything else, in that last 1 year, while we may have achieved our targets of going back to 5 million, well, going higher, we were at about 4.46 or 4.6 last year. We went to 5 million. We're also looked at growing our ARPUs, which have grown by about 7 to 8% in the last 1 year, right? I'm talking about aggregated ARPUs across the 4 DAS markets. Because in DAS 4, for instance, ARPUs have gone down. But it's really good because it means now more consumers can get content at a lower price. I'm talking about DAS 4 markets, rural markets. Prices have actually gone down of content. But in DAS 1 markets, people are off-taking. Obviously, there's more off-take of sports and other premium products. So the ARPUs have gone up. So there's been a decent growth in the ARPUs as well there.
So give me the lay of the land. So where it's working, you said?
Yeah.
Where is cable work? Where have you got the extra traction?
So cable continues to work in the highly dense population or urban conglomerates, Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, to some extent in places like Ahmedabad. We're talking about other markets like Nagpur, etc., where there is a significant presence. But our focus will remain always the cities. So that's Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, and Hyderabad, of course. Kolkata, we don't have a significant presence, but we're building it there. So cable continues to work there very well. And the reason why cable works also well there is because we're able to bundle it with something which is our broadband. So everywhere across the city markets, we've been able to bundle cable and broadband, and it's been working pretty decently in those markets. HITS was always designed as a product to reach consumers and to reach customers in DAS 3 and 4 markets. And it's lived up to its reputation. Close to about 65% of our base is from rural markets. 65% of the hits base is from rural markets, not 65% of our whole base. 65% of the base is from rural markets, and another 35% is from probably a mix between DAS 2 and DAS 3 markets. So the lay of the land is our growth has continued in rural markets where ARPUs may be low, but the volumes have been growing significantly.
What are the volumes like in these markets?
So if you look at it,
1.5, 2 million, 3 million?
No, so like hits is 2.5 million.
Okay.
Right? Hits is 2.5 million, and cable is another 1.5 million, which is within IMCL, right? And the remaining 1 million, as I mentioned to you, comes from our joint ventures.
Okay.
Yeah. And that will continue to see traction. Another interesting thing that has happened in the last 6 months is a lot of businesses, and I'm talking about competitors, have realized that the future of this business is collaboration, right? And we've been working with some very large pan-India MSOs to start providing managed services through our HITS platform, because they are also facing challenges of fiber cuts in rural India, because obviously, you know, the subscriber cost, subscriber servicing cost, SSC, in rural India is obviously much higher than cities, right? Because in cities, your density is much more. So the MSOs that have a significant presence in rural India or in DAS 3 markets have come to us and said, listen, why don't we work together and why don't you deliver my signals? And it's working beautifully for us. We will announce certain rollouts, but to give you a sense, we've signed agreements with a very large pan-India MSO for just over 5 million customers. So we hope to see that.
5 million customers.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So we hope to see that. We were actually working on the rollout, and we will continue to work on we're already working on the rollout. There's no, there's nothing holding that up. But the actual implementation on the ground will happen physically, of course, once things start pairing up, you know.
Yeah. So, you know, you seem to make it sound as though the cable sector, you know, this was all about the session that we're having is about cable being the hero.
Yep.
So, and is it the hero? But because it had earned a very bad name over the years. So yeah, is it the hero now?
So I'll tell you, cable, a lot of people say that cable earned a very bad name, but I must share with you a couple of anecdotes that have made me change, not change my mind, that make me, how do I put it, shut my mouth, okay, good and proper, when I even think of it. Today, I can share with you, okay, hundreds of experiences where cable operators today are the ones on the front line going and delivering food to consumers and customers. We have cable operators in Mumbai who are providing broadband free of cost to their consumers. We have cable operators today who are telling me, saying, sir, I have 3 senior citizens. I need this box to be activated. So I said, no problem, I'll get it activated. And they said, no. We need you to activate it at this particular time. And I said, why? And they said, no, because the senior citizen, he or she cannot go to the market to get vegetables. I have to go and give them the vegetable. I'll tell you, today, feet on street, and I'm not criticizing any other technology or anything, but today the feet on street are the cable operators, right? And they are ensuring that the services are being maintained. If you look at a list of complaints today that you can check on any website, right, you won't see that many coming. In fact, you'll see cable operators being hailed as people who are responding in the shortest possible time to help. They are the ones today on the front lines where you can call them up, where customers are calling up and saying, listen, I have a problem. I need, my box has gone up, my set-top box has gone up, there's a fiber cut somewhere. I'm talking about even that 35%. They are the ones who are really the heroes and the warriors. You know, there's no doubt, we always talk about our frontline and you know, full respect to our health workers, our police who are, you know, incredible job that they're doing, health, sanitation, all of that. And I think when you look at it, our teams from the field who are working on cable television and broadband may be behind, but not very far behind. They're the ones as well who are keeping the lifeline of the city going. Today, the fact that you and I can have a video conference call and we can talk about it is because someone out there is ensuring that the fiber is staying alive. Someone out there is ensuring that the video connectivity is there. Someone's ensuring that people are getting their connectivity at home. So I think they have earned their stripes, and they've been able to not just earn their stripes, they've done it out of passion and out of the want to be, to make a difference.
Yeah, but I'd also like to share with you, a lot of cable operators are feeding people. They are donating to the Prime Minister's Care Fund.
Yes.
And they're donating sizable sums,
Yes.
10 lakhs, 5 lakhs, 15 lakhs across the country.
Correct.
The point is that is never brought out to the industry. And
Anil, that is the problem, Anil. That's the problem, right? When people look at it, they say, "Arey, cable wala." He's not a cable wala. He is a businessman. He is a franchisee partner. He's running other businesses, right? The fact that some of them may be well educated, some of them may be less educated. You can't paint everyone with the same brush. I know cable operators in Sojar, in central Maharashtra, across India, in UP, in Bihar, who are conducting food camps every single day. Feeding 700 people every single day. Where does that money come from? Their own pockets, right? They're not asking for sops or discounts. So I think you're absolutely right, Anil. The part that I feel sad about is that the cable operators are going out of their way to do a lot, and for whatever reason, it's not really coming out in the forefront. And that is something I'm so glad that, when I saw the headline that you sent, that you wanted to do on this chat, trust me, I was delighted, because I said, Anil is the only one in this industry. Very few people, Anil, understand that the contribution of the cable operator, right? The fact that he's there, the fact that today, if you call up and you say, listen, I have a problem at home, I need your help at home, right? My parents are alone at home. I'm living in a different city. I can't get back home. Can you please go and just, outside the door, can you just leave vegetables outside the door for them? Or can you just trust me, right? You won't hear a no. So I think I'm very proud of that section. And they are guys who they understand this business. They understand the need for...
They know the customer. They know the customer. Absolutely. Like I'm on 7th Star.
Yeah.
He knows me.
Correct.
He came by for collection. I told him that, I'd asked you not to continue because my dad was in the hospital. So at that stage, my dad passed on since.
Yeah.
And then you know what? He told me it's okay. They call me first before coming over. I mean, they know us, and they understand what we're going through. So a lot of people think that the cable is a bad sector to be in. It may have been in the early days, like it was in America in the Wild West. It was called the Wild West.
Correct.
Since then, I think a lot more order has come in, and companies like yours, like Hathway, like GTPL, and certain large cable, smaller cable operators who became large have understood. But I'm still I'd really like to see a cable company being ranked on a par with Tata Sky's services. I've not yet come across a company. You helped set up Tata Sky. You were a consultant to them. So why is it that cable has never, ever, spoken in the same breath as a Tata Sky's customer service?
Sure. So I think, when you look at the challenges, they're obviously the legacy challenges. That is the first thing, right? The first legacy challenge was the fact that cable was always seen as being, as you rightly said, the quality at that point in time, because of the fact that we were not necessarily using fiber, was seen as a constraint, right? So it was seen as not being qualitative. Today, when you look at the quality, every single cable operator, virtually everyone, is on fiber. There is no one who's not on fiber, right? And everyone's providing you, qualitative broadband. The point remains that because it's a B2B2C business, the challenge always remains of sharing investments in the last mile. And that, Anil, is the nature of the beast, right? It is, Tata Sky is direct to home, Airtel is direct to home, Sun Direct is direct to home. So any investment that you make is all the way up to reaching the customer. On the LCO side and the MSO side, there's always, not the challenge, but there's always the legacy of how do you work together to provide digital quality to the end customer. Now, is there a transition happening? Absolutely. And I think HITS is a great example of that. You're providing via satellite to a HITS operator. The HITS operator is located anywhere. He's in Basar in Arunachal Pradesh. He's in Andamans. In Andamans today, I got a message. I must share it with you. I got a message, this was before the lockdown, from a guy saying, this is from a gentleman from the US who was holidaying in the Andamans, and he said, Vince, what is your company called? And I said, it's called IMCL. He said, no, what is your service? I said, it's Next Digital. He said, I'm sitting in the Andamans and watching Next Digital, right? And it's incredible. It's fantastic digital quality, and the kind of HD quality that you have, etc., was brilliant. So I think technology has been there. We may have not represented it in wearing a uniform and going out in the field because we're kind of an amorphous bunch. But I think in terms of consumers, also consumer feedback, I think consumers are very happy because they've got a relationship with their cable operator that goes beyond everything else, right? It's not just the quality of the product that I get, it's also the service, right? Can I pick up the phone and call you and say, listen, pal, it's 11 o'clock in the night, right? I have to watch this thing at 11:30. There's a football match on, English Premier League. To kuch bhi kar bhai, to mera signal chalu kar. Right? Now, who will do that? A cable operator will do it, right?
It happened in the US during the CES, and what happened is that there was a down. Entire network went down in the place where I'd taken during Consumer Electronics Show in January. We were on a call for up to 2 hours to get it up, and the Comcast representative couldn't. First of all, they made us wait forever. So when you look at it in retrospect, I hope the delivery was very good in terms of when there's a downtime, they have their own corporate setup, and it takes a long time to service, because of the paperwork that's involved in larger companies. Whereas in the Indian framework, things happen quicker because local cable operator is a service provider. So do you think that will change? Where
I think
service will take a long time. Whereas Tata Sky still does things quickly enough. At least reputation, perception. I don't know how true it is, but it's a perception.
I think Anil, I think it's mainly also a matter of perception, right? Because when you go around, the bottom line is how many complaints have come in when you look at it as a percentage where servicing of a cable customer has not been met or not been met suitably, right? There is no real data, because the data, for example, that we look at, is very stringent. There's the moment, let's say a fiber gets cut somewhere, the cable operator raises a ticket, right? But he raises the ticket to the head office saying that the fiber's cut. But he doesn't wait for us to get there. He moves immediately with his team to get that fiber sorted out, right? So we monitor 0 to 2 hours, we monitor 2 to 3 hours, 3 to 5 hours, 5 to 7 hours. So there's a continuous monitoring. So by and large, and again, don't forget one other critical piece. Chances are, when you look at DTH, the service that gets affected is a singular service. That means, Anil, if you have a dish, you're being affected. But when a fiber gets cut, it's a full area. So when you look at it in correlation, it's actually the cable team is able to activate a larger base in a shorter time, because they're able, by fixing one fiber joint, they're able to activate a full building or a full, housing complex. So I think those are key parameters when you look at that tell you that. But again, it's a perception, right? You won't see our cable operators necessarily, wearing their, boasting about it and saying, we've done this and this. The guys who go about doing their job. A job comes before everything, and it's a fantastic thing. I would complete 2 years in August, but before that, I've been associated with the group since 2014. Ru and I have been associated, setting up hits, etc. And I must tell you,
your better half.
Your
better.
Exactly, my much better half, technologically wise as well. And I tell you, Anil, there's so much of learning and so much of you've got to, at the end of the day, realize that this business has been built by them, right? The cable operators have built this business brick by brick. And trust me, whatever technology comes in, whatever you do, you're not going to be able to dismantle all the bricks, right? You may chip away at the mortar that binds the bricks, but just taking down the wall is not. There's a much greater, and I think there was an article that was out that even cable viewing has gone up, right? Has gone up by about 43% in key cities, etc. During the lockdown. I think that is a the psychological, and that's the data that speaks volumes that this industry is here to stay.
I understand. So, but there's a perception that digital And broadband, that's really, your broadband uptake is how much? You have about 600,000 subscribers?
So
Broadband?
we've got 300,000 subscribers on our broadband business, but that's growing very, very rapidly, right? But again, the good part about it is that it's not like you need to have one at the cost of the other, right? Today, our product is a combo product to consumers' homes, right? You're offering him fiber to the home. So he's got speeds of 1 gig. You're offering him a high value pack, which is 750 channels on cable television. So consumers are opting for the work at home, or the essential toolkit in a way, right? Which includes cable, broadband, data, all video, all of that. So I think that's not going to change, right? Will there be a skew? Yes, there will be a skew. It's like saying I was using a mobile phone with a keypad earlier. Now I'm using a mobile phone without a keypad, right? Which is an electronic keypad. But the service I'm using is the same. I'm still typing an SMS. I still have to type it. I can use voice. Voice is there. But how often do I use it for voice? So I think technology will evolve, but the delivery mechanism will evolve. But I think the ethos and the principles of what you're trying to achieve, I think that will remain fundamental to the business.
I understand, but there's a perception that thanks to Jio's spread, one on the fiber to the home, secondly on the wireless delivery of video via broadband, which they're encouraging a lot, that cable will slightly get marginalized. So as will DTH. So I was with a very senior government functionary. The person told me that DTH's days are numbered because that's exactly those terms. If the DTH players have to evolve into offering many more services, otherwise the days are numbered. So if we are seeing new modes of delivery coming in, especially wireless and via FTTH, like Jio is doing. So how do you see the cable industry and the cable operator, adjusting to this scenario? You're offering them many other opportunities to earn money through your ancillary businesses that the Hinduja Group runs, but not everyone has those kind of opportunities.
True.
Apart from Jio, possibly.
True. So I don't, for a moment, I don't doubt what you're saying at all, because I think it's a matter of evolution, right? It's like the Kodak camera and it's like Nokia phones or whatever. I think the important thing is to stay ahead of the curve. So if you see, all the cable operators, most of the cable operators in the major cities at least, have already moved to fiber readiness, right? So they're already fiber ready. So for them to provide fiber to the home is not going to take anything, right? As consumers' preferences for higher speeds improve. They are providing video as a layer on top of that, or vice versa. They're providing video via cable and providing broadband as a layer on top of that. They will continue to do that because in the cities, you will have that kind of cable penetration, which is...
Yeah, but ARPUs are so high on broadband. I mean, whereas video ARPUs are low.
Yeah, but that is where the beauty comes in of a combo product, right? A combo product is what works for the cable operators, right? The idea is for cable operators, how do they grow their revenues? And this is something that, I think we mentioned it earlier, is that cable operators by and large are offering a combination product.
Sure, you did.
Most cable operators today across the country are offering broadband as part of their package. They understand the need to have a diversified portfolio, and they understand the need to have broadband and cable. And they are ahead of the curve, right? They've been offering broadband well before the bigger players came into play. And even today as we speak, chances are most of us have, the friendly neighborhood broadband player rather than a large player only, right? By and large, it's the phenomenon so I think that is going to continue. Then you mentioned about the challenge that, about changing your portfolio and offering new products. Anil, I can't agree with you more on that, right? I think the importance is to innovate. You have to keep on innovating, right? There is no other rule book in this business for success rather than innovation. And I think every single platform, whether it is DTH, whether it is hits, whether it is cable TV, even OTT, everyone has to innovate to stay ahead of the curve, right? Whether it's offering new products, whether it's offering new services, can you build in home security systems into it? Can you build in other products that may be related but not directly related? For example, payment gateways. Can you create, what is it that you can do? So I think that is something that all of us are acutely aware, and all of us have a think tank, Anil, at the back telling us, working with us in terms of what is it that we can do as the curve goes along, in terms of the business. Because you're right, you're there, and then suddenly you'll see this. So the only way to keep that curve going is to innovate with new products. So we, for example, have launched our broadband play as part of our combo pack. Today, we are not a cable television company. We're a digital services provider. We provide video, broadband, and data, right, to a consumer's home. So whenever we're doing deals whenever we're working with our cable operators, we're also grooming them and working with them to become a digital services provider where they need, get into products. So I think that is happening. Is it going to happen in a hurry? I think that is where you'll see different. Rural India will take a long time to get there, right? But high density cities like Mumbai, Delhi, etc., you're already seeing tremendous amount of offtake, right now.
Yeah, but do you see pressure coming on pricing because the country is gone? A lot of people haven't been, because of the lockdown. I know that unemployment is going to go up, and salaries have been cut. People have been put on furlough, though it's not, hitting the headlines in media, but it's happening. So people are going to be cautious about what they spend and where they spend and how much they spend. So do you see pressure coming on cable TV post-COVID and broadband? Or is broadband a necessity and cable TV a necessity today in the hierarchy of needs?
Right. So Anil, just to tell you, we've also been hearing about all these layoffs and furlough and all that happening in the press. And I had a...
Yeah, you got barely 10% of what's really happening.
Yeah, I know. I can well imagine, and it's really sad. We do a state of play call with all our heads of departments. And 2 weeks ago in the state of play call, I had a call with the team, and the one mantra I gave them, I said, when times are down, the first thing that people do is look to cutting costs. The smart thing that people do is looking to innovate and aggressively grow new revenue streams. I said, that should be our mantra. There is no question of, yes, you will look to pare your costs. You will look to pare your operational costs. But people are your asset. You need to look at how you leverage them to think differently. I'll give you an example. So today, we may have people working from home, right? We've got our call centers operating from home. This is going to come as a surprise to you, Anil. We have people who have nothing to do, who are not call center executives. They're actual legal executives who have been given additional portfolios of supporting consumers during this lockdown phase. So we worked out a technology where calls are being rerouted to their mobile numbers and they're becoming call center executives. Everyone is being put on different roles, right? And every team has been given a role to think about innovation. How can they innovate? How can they take the product that they have and kind of work it differently? So, the challenge is going to be there on revenues. The challenge, Anil, is going to be on margins. More than anything else, margins is where your challenge is going to be, because your as you rightly said, revenues are going to take a hit. But I think the bigger hit overall for the industry is the margin, because people will want you to deliver the same level of service, the same level of product, but at a lower cost, obviously. So your margins are where your pressure is going to be. And I think the only way to do that is to substantiate the margins by building in layers over it. So you've got a cable TV layer, you're building in broadband over it. You've got a broadband layer, you're building in an OTT over it. OTT is not your own OTT. You're partnering with someone to offer his OTT as a hybrid product over it. You're building a digital payment app over it. You build a stack of products, probably that could be more useful for a consumer, where you're not going to see traction necessarily today or necessarily in the next 3 months. You may see it over a period of time. But the beauty is you're planning today to deal with that issue. And to plan today, you need all your resources, which are your assets, right, to be able to do it. So I think that is the way that we have to look at this industry. It's going to be tough, Anil. I mean, I have no qualms in admitting it's going to be tough. Every waking moment, we have challenges. We know that, collection is a challenge. We know that revenues is a challenge. But I think the smart way is are we able to leverage the current situation and do something innovative that we can take to another level altogether.
Fantastic. You're celebrating 25 years of InCable this year, of the IMCL group, or Hinduja's foray into cable. So what does that mean for AP, GP and the Hinduja family, and for you and the executives and your partners and your cable operators, your distributors? What does it mean for all of them?
This is I must tell you this. I was talking to Mr. A.K. Das, who is our chairman of IMCL, and who pretty much has been the father of the cable television industry in India, as you know, right? And of course, the fact is that 25 years, we may have had financial pressures, we may have been a loss-making entity, but I must tell you, not even once did AP Hinduja, our promoter, Mr. AP Hinduja, or GP Sir, PP Sir, SP Sir, lose the faith that this business was the right decision that they had taken. And they have kept on, the promoters have kept on funding it. There is no funding from outside sources. They have kept on personally funding this business, knowing fully well that it would be an industry that would see a turnaround. They had great faith in it. And Mr. A.K. Das, or AKD, whom we refer to, has always led from the front, right? He's always been involved right from day one. He's always mentored the entire industry. And I'll tell you what, today the best part is we're looking back and saying, listen, all of us are looking back and saying the journey was worth it. Today, we've turned around the corner, Ani, right? In our 25th year, the best thing is that we've turned around the corner, and we're today proud enough to say, listen, we're a company that has been through it. We've been through, our feet through the fire. We've walked on hot coals. We've danced with wolves, but we've come out smiling at the other side. And I think that by far is what everyone has a lot of faith. And when you look at the distributors or business partners, there's so many of them who've been with us for 25 years, right? 24, 25, 23, 22 years. Cable operators have been so long. And I think they are all happy that they've continued to remain part of the family, the Hinduja Parivar, Media Parivar. And I think all of them believe that it is it's much more than a pure transaction, right? And this is not a transactionary company. This is basically a community. So they're very happy. Yes, we argue, we'll debate, we'll have issues, but I think everyone sees it as a community rather than a business transaction. I think everyone's excited about the 25th year. We would like this 25th year to be a very important year for us, and we are hoping to kick off certain things earlier this year, with some of which obviously we've had to delay in view of the current lockdown. But I think it's a very significant year for us because it also defines us as in terms of the next 25 years, where we're looking at basically making this 360-degree transition to becoming a pure play digital company, right? So as far as we're concerned, from here on, we are a pure play digital company. Anything that is digital, we do. So I think that philosophy we've already started translating. As I mentioned to you, our mobile apps that we've launched, our prepaid mechanisms that we have, helping customers go digital in terms of their payments, helping cable operators to collect money directly from customers online, and ensuring contactless business. I think all those things were kicked off in this year, and we hope to see that laying the bedrock for the next 25 years.
So you don't expect the lockdown and the recovery phase thereafter and the getting back to active and possibly a second wave of COVID hitting, because even in the previous time in 1918 there was a first wave. The second wave had more casualties for the Spanish flu than the first wave. So you don't expect that to send your plans in disarray. And secondly, the partnership between Jio and Facebook, which is looking at having the Jio Marts, having e-commerce plays, having the close community that Facebook has in India. You don't expect that to derail any of your plans, or do you expect it to continue as is?
So Anil, the best part is I think the Jio Facebook model, I think, is good for the entire industry, right? It means that there's a lot of faith and there's a lot of there's a lot of interest still in this sector, right? Because at one point in time, people said this sector is pretty much dead, right? Cable TV sector, I'm talking about 2 years ago. Jio invested in it, which gave all of us a fillip, right? It gave all of us the confidence that we were in the right business. I think as IMCL particularly, our entire model has been a very boutique model. If you look at it, we're a boutique firm, right? We have a select bunch of products, we have a select bunch of services, and we're looking to ensure that we stay within that framework. we're not looking at, at being a volume player or anything. We're keen to remain a boutique firm offering good digital products. For example, competitors, as far as I'm concerned, competitors are all collaborators. There's nothing wrong in a competitor riding on our platform, as I mentioned to you.
Yeah, you said about hits, yeah.
So same thing for us to ride on someone else's platform. So I think the beauty about this business is you're going to see a lot of collaborative ways of doing business, and you're going to see that happening more and more. And I think that is good overall for the industry. So then you mentioned about the wave. I hope to God, Anil, and it's always a scary thought about there being another wave, etc. But I think end of the day, the bottom line is that the coinage, the coin that you earn, is going to come from your subscribers, right? That's where the revenue comes from. As much innovation as you put in, as much as ideas as you put in, end of the day, the revenue has to come from somewhere, as well as from some other areas. I think as long as the subscriber is taken care of and the subscriber, work from home becomes more and more, how do I put it, the norm rather than the exception. I'm not talking about work from home, but I'm talking about a new normal of doing business. Sure. I think we're getting there. If you look at broadcasters today, broadcasters have created portals. If you look at Z has launched a portal, right, to upload reports, download reports. So there's already contactless where you don't need to print reams of paper or send files. I think that business model of being contactless is already coming into play. I think we have to now take it to the next level, which is we are already contactless with the LCO. How do we take it contactless between the LCO and the customer? I think that would be our challenge, and that is what we're working on for the next 3 months.
So,
if we're able to cross that.
Yeah, the Prime Minister's dream was that India should be digitized.
Absolutely. I mean, Anil, in 2015, when the late Arun Jaitley launched our HITS service, I must tell you the three things that AP Hinduja mentioned in that meeting, that we have to live by three mantras. One is Digital India, one is Skill India, and one is Made in India. And we're very proud today. Digital India, if you look at, as I gave you an example of Andamans or Arunachal Pradesh, today they are digital, right? You go to what's it called? You go to any part of India and you'll see a next digital pope there providing digital services. We've also followed the Skill India aspect by training all our operators how to embrace the digital framework and be able to deliver. And Made in India, if you see all our cable operator premise equipment, a lot of that is designed and assembled in India. So you're absolutely right, Anil. It's been the Prime Minister's vision of embracing these three things. And, if everyone had embraced the Digital India, true in all its spirit and thing, we would be in a different space, right? But the good thing now is that this has also triggered it for everyone to think again and say, listen, there is tremendous sense in this Digital India mission. We now need to look at how to adapt it to us in the changing new normal.
I understand. So now, I'll ask a few more questions and then I'll check if there are any questions from the audience. So, how do you see this playing out from now onwards? There have been certain speculation in the press that it's going to go beyond May 3rd. Bombay, Delhi and Bengaluru are going to be the territories which will not open on May 3rd. We're in the hotspot regions. So they'll take longer than that. So, there are certain areas which will open up. So how do you see this playing out? What kind of time frame? Is it 2 months? Is it a month? Is it June? Is it July? When we go back to work, when, like you said, with your L2 level, where you have Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. So when do you see all this opening up? Because, we've been at home, we're getting used to the way we are working. Early, if it was the real world, we'd be having this as a panel discussion, in the real world. Right now, we're doing it as a digital discussion, as a virtual fireside chat. So tell me, when do you see this kind of giving us an option to go out again?
So Anil, I think your guess is as good as anyone else's and my guess is as good as anyone else's. But I think there are a few fundamental aspects that if you look at government guidelines or even the Maharashtra state guidelines, where they believe that industries, and especially cable, by the way, is an essential industry.
Absolutely.
Right? As long as we follow certain guidelines, for us to be able to operate, we operate anyways within a tight framework. So even today, we're operating, right? We're operating at capacity in terms of our services, right? Our broadcast center is operational. We're delivering 750 channels to consumers. It's all being done. Those working from home are not necessarily stressed under the burden of having to need to go back to office, and it's going to make a huge difference, right? We're able to do it on video conference. We're able to do it. The challenge that happens very often is more in terms of innovative technology, putting demos into place, discussing it. I think those are things that have a challenge, but those have a bit of an elongated shelf life. So we're not really panicking about needing to go back to that mode today.
Yeah, but the government has passed so many. There's a STB interoperability where we have to respond to. Today they had the uplinking, downlinking. Then they've got the BARC. TRA has passed, has circulated those consultation papers and new policy guidelines.
Yeah.
So the industries, and we've got 15 days for each of these. So industries is a little bit hampered, or is it not hampered?
And you'll see, this would have happened in the normal course of time as well, right? This would have happened in the normal course of time. We've seen that in the last 1 year as well, right? There have been various consultation papers, etc. And we've been working on them while running our own businesses. I don't think there's any change in whether it's being hampered or not, because people probably have more time. And if you look at it, even our associations that we work with to be able to respond or even within our organization, we're working on it. We're having our VCs, we're discussing it, and we're preparing our responses. I think the challenge, Anil, will continue to remain that how quickly can you get back into an office to reorganize your business, right? Because you can't sit at home and reorganize, right? You can't sit at home and say, listen, I'm going to make these changes in the business. I'm not talking about staff reorganization. I'm talking about product reorganization or anything. You can do it on video conference, which is what we've been doing. But I think the actual rollout, the actual implementation needs some amount of, I won't use face-to-face contact, but needs some amount of interaction that happens other than on a video screen. And I think that is the piece that's probably, not happened. And we hope that will happen. Our guess is as good as yours. To be fair, we've been every single state, city, municipality, or every single police force has been supporting us actively. We get our curfew passes without any problems. They understand the need for supporting us. We have our warehouses where we have set-top boxes. We have municipal authorities and the police and other authorities helping us to operate our warehouses as and when required on an urgent basis. So I think I don't know how to describe it. I mean, we've reached that level of comfort of the current comfort. But going forward, you're absolutely right. I think we need that, and your guess is as good as mine as to how soon we'll be able to get there.
But are you having a business continuity plan from here, going back to 6 months from now, 9 months from now?
So we have devised, what we do is we devise a plan, and we devise basically a 12-month plan, and we've got triggers. So trigger 1 was basically lifting of the lockdown, which the first lockdown that was supposed to happen, which was a base case, right? Then we've got a trigger point 2, which is May 3rd. There's a trigger point 3, which is June. And every time there's a trigger point, the goalpost doesn't shift, but the key aspects that reach that goalpost start changing. So that is a business plan that we put in place, and we do, Anil, which as you would know also, we do continuously sensitivity analysis, right? Different base cases and how we can get there. So I think the base case, unfortunately, while we would like to set it, the base case itself can't be set. So you can't really create the worst case scenario, because what is the base case today, right? So unless you know what is the base case, there's no point in doing the best case scenario or the worst case scenario after that.
Fantastic. Any other thoughts you have to share? Because I'm kind of, I think you've answered a lot of questions. You've been pretty open. Any other you'd like to answer?
I think the bottom line, Anil, this year, as I keep on, sounding like a stuck record, has to be collaboration. I think every digital platform operator in the country, whether it be cable TV or HITS or DTH or IPTV or OTT, has to look at how to leverage each other's infrastructure, right? The MIB and the TRAI has always been for it, right? They've always been supporting it. And I think broadcasters also should be able to understand the need for DPOs to be able to, leverage each other's infrastructure within the framework, obviously, of what is permissible. And I think that is an important thing to come in for the entire ecosystem, right from the regulator, from the MIB, the regulator, the broadcaster, the DPOs, the LCOs, and to the consumer. I think the game is all about collaboration. How can you reduce
But you see that happening. Sorry to interrupt you.
I am seeing that
under pressure. Broadcasters are under pressure today. Revenues are down. The collections are not coming in. I was told, I spoke to one large a large broadcast network, one of the leading top 4. They said March was good, but we don't know whether April's going to be good. So in terms of getting their revenue off the ground, because the collections have been challenging. That's what they mentioned to me. So, they'll be under pressure. So collaboration at this stage, when they have to answer to the shareholders, they have to answer to investors. Do you think that is going to be a reality, or is it just a wish?
So I'll put it to you slightly differently. I always tell people $1 is better than nothing, right? So I can sit and mope and say my collections are completely, I was collecting $2 and now I'm collecting 0. Or am I saying I'm happy to collect $1 and allow an infrastructure sharing model to happen rather than going down to 0? I think that's what I'm getting at, Anil, that everyone's under a challenge, right? Everyone's revenues are under threat. Everyone's margins are under threat. I think we've got to be able to leverage each other's strengths and be able to look at what is it that we can take away from the party, right? It's got to be a win-win. No one's saying that you do it at the cost of someone else. I'm saying, but we all need to be able, we can't have a fractured mandate. It's got to be a mandate that says that, yes, we're all with you. Let's all work together and let's all figure out how to bring down costs together, right? I think that is... Will you do it at
the AIDCF level along with the IBF, or will it be done on individual levels?
I think it will be done on an individual level to a great extent. We would like to see the AIDCF. Obviously, that is our federation doing it, but that's more from the cable side. But I think overall, we'd like to see everyone just working together. I think I must share with you that we've got some fantastic relationships with some key broadcasters who've been working with us and listen, how can we work on pushing digital payments? How can we work on customers making payments digitally, right? They've come out with campaigns and they've been working with us.
Before COVID is something else.
No, but I'll tell you what, Anil, the point is it's a start. Earlier, you would never have that. Today, because as they say, right, adversity brings out the best in people, right? And this adverse situation is actually bringing out the best in players. So we are working with 2 or 3 very large broadcasters to be able to take their campaigns to the ground on collections, for instance, right? Which benefits us, benefits them, benefits everyone else. How successful will we be is a measure of, of the ground. But I think we'd like to see that happening. And while it's a wish list, we have been working separately and severally and jointly with others to be able to bring in some new models as well.
Fantastic. So on that note of hope that collaboration is going to be key in the coming year, I'd like to thank you for spending time with us. It's been a good 1.5 hour conversation when we had committed an hour, but you had so much to say and so much to share. Thank you. It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much, Anil. Thank you.
Good evening, and let's all, as a collective on the industry, hope for the best in the coming days, weeks, months, and the year ahead. Thank you.
Anil, I want to say this to you in closing. Again, I repeat what I said earlier. I don't think anyone else had recognized and respected the role that cable operators have played in not just COVID-19, but right throughout. And I think this session was truly a reflection of the understanding that not just you, but all of Indian television has of the industry. So for that, on behalf of the industry itself, I want to thank you and Indian television for taking this up and airing this. Thanks so much, Anil.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening and give my best to the family.
I will. See you too. Bye.